A rival faction of the New Nigeria People's Party in Kano State has rejected the outcome of the party's national convention held in Abuja, insisting that it cannot recognize the exercise as legal. Factional chairman of the NNPP in Kano, Senator Masood Doguwa, described the convention organized by the Kwankwaso-led faction as illegitimate and lacking due process. Well, in other news, the All Progressives Congress has released a comprehensive schedule of activities for its 2025-2026 nationwide ward, local government, state and zonal congresses, culminating in the party's national convention. The APC National Secretary, Senator Ajibola Bashiru, released the schedule via his verified X handle. According to the timetable signed by Bashiru, the activities are being conducted pursuant to the provisions of Articles 11 and 17 of the APC Constitution and are aimed at electing party officials across all levels. Furthermore, the African Democratic Congress has called for the immediate suspension of Nigeria's recently introduced tax laws, alleging that critical sections were modified at approval by the National Assembly and assent by President Bola Tinubu, a development the party described as a grave constitutional breach. In a statement issued on Saturday by its National Publicity Secretary, Bolaji Abdullahi, the party warned that altering legislation after approval by the legislature raises concerns that President Tinubu is allegedly seeking to centralize power. The party's reaction followed a point of privilege raised on December 17 by Honorable Abdul Samad Dasuki, PDP Sokoto, in the House of Representatives, in which he drew attention to discrepancies between the harmonized bills passed by lawmakers and the versions later released to the public. Joining us on Political Brief to discuss these stories is Arise Director of News and Politics Editor, Somna Sambo. Good morning, Somna, and thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning to the rest of us, including our viewers, and season's greetings.
Okay, Somna, we just finished discussing with the president of the Nigerian Institute of Taxation, Mr. Ohagwa, and he raised some points. But my point is, okay, what are we really dealing with here? Is it lack of clarity about due process? Because there's a way harmonized bills are passed to the president, and if the president or the executive has any objection, there's also a process. But we seem to be hitting in the dark. A House of Reps member says, oh, the copy that was harmonized, it's not the copy that the president signed. It's not the one that is gazetted. The gazetting is the job of the Ministry of Information. The Attorney General will have looked at the harmonized copy. You will have, the State Council will have looked at it. The job of the president is just to sign or not, based on advice. If the president objects to any of these sections, he would itemize and send back to the National Assembly. And I also asked the question, okay, this whole issue is House of Reps now that has set up a committee. Where is the Senate? It's supposed to be a harmonized bill between two chambers. So, but the Senate is very quiet. And why can't they just publish this, the harmonized copy, so that it's not other people doing interpretation for us, saying this is what is the problem? Can we all just look at the harmonized copy, as people who also went to school and who can read? It's about phrasing, it's about how it is drafted and differences. You don't need to have a PhD in taxation to be able to explain this. So I would like to know what your take is, having listened to the president of the Chartered Institute of Taxation. So we may be dealing with a storm in a teacup. Number two, what is it called? NNPP. They are talking about factions and all of that. Well, they have issues in NNPP. They have issues in Labour Party. They have issues in PDP. I was toying with the theory that look at it this way. You have 28 state governors now that have joined. You have almost 2/3 of the National Assembly members who have joined the APC, I was saying that it looks like this election is won and lost already. You know, the ruling party using the power of incumbency. We don't know which party again will have issues tomorrow. So APC, they are also, you know, they have their own internal issues, but they seem to be enjoying the power of incumbency and being the ruling party. But some people say there may be the X factor and that it may not be as certain as things may appear now. What do you think?
All right, thank you, Dr. Abati. Let's start with that first issue you talked about. You see, the points being raised by the opposition African Democratic Congress is very, very important. Apart from other Nigerian groups, including the honorable members that raised this, I mean, it's not just Abdul Samad Dasuki that raised this alone. Two other, House of Rep members during the weekend actually agreed that what they passed is different. So we have 3 members of the House of Representatives doing that. And it's surprising, actually, that the Senate is quiet. But in this instance, you have laid out the procedure. I mean, these things are not new. These are things that we've been doing since the return to democracy. Now, the clerk of the National Assembly should actually be speaking up on this issue too. Because, gazetted copies are worked out between himself, the Attorney General of the Federation, and the Ministry of Information, and then published through the Federal Government of Nigeria Press. And then it's now made available to the public. So at what point were those documents tampered with? Initially, I had thought that maybe the honorable member was talking about the copies that were given to him before the 2 chambers went into a harmonization committee. But I don't think he would have been saying that because he mentioned the harmonized version. So at what point in time did the transmission of the document between the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly to the presidency, and then of course you have the Attorney General of the Federation, and within this mix, something will happen that they won't all detect. So, I mean, let's be very fair to all parties. The House of Reps has said that they've raised up a committee, and it will be in 4 weeks they'll take a look at this. And of course, if there are one way or the other where we've had, the issues tampered with, that would be an unforgivable offense against the people of Nigeria, because the National Assembly represents the people of Nigeria. And so it will be an aberration for, quote, allegedly, if the executive does tamper with this. And of course, you know that is actually an impeachable offense. Now, we should give the executive the benefit of the doubt. Let them also bring to the fore what was handed to them. And then, of course, we take it off from there. But these issues of taxation are very important because what they are alleging is that there are some insertions there that could give the powers of the executive, the powers of the legislature and the judiciary and hand it over to the executive, where tax officers can go to people and arrest people and all of that. I don't think the executive itself will allow that to happen because that would be a recipe for chaos. Because the lawmakers are saying that what they claim or what they pass is that for the FIRS or the Nigerian Revenue Service, as now going to be called, to take such actions, they'll have to go and get a court order, and then the court order will now allow them to go and do whatever they intend to do in accordance with the law. But now that right is now being given to the Revenue Service directly, I think that would be a recipe for chaos, for anarchy, because the executive should not take over the powers of the legislature and the judiciary at the same time. Now, for the politicians who are raising this, the opposition politicians, it's very important because I will draw your attention back to 1979, Dr. Abati, when the great Nnamdi Azikiwe himself accused Michael Ani, the chairman of FEDECO then, of, wanting to slander his name, saying that he had not paid his income tax for 1976, 1977, and Zik outright uses lawyers to cancel that. So some of these opposition politicians may be afraid that going to the 2027 elections, the new tax law may be used against them, and they'll say that they've not done the filing, or they did the filing bit by bit, or in all, they backdated the filing. You and I know that this used to happen in the past, where they use tax filings to disqualify opposition politicians and all of that. So in a bit, it's something that we should all be worried about. But is it important for us to back the executive for, the taxation policies to be put in place so that Nigerians can pay tax and get good governance? Yes, it's very important for us to pay our taxes. And the Tinubu administration says we need to, widen the tax net. Yes. But the public trust is something that should not be pushed aside, because without public trust, the taxation issue will fail. And I don't like the way the Tinubu presidency is trying to make it look like it's northern politicians that are against the passage of this law. Because within political circles, that's the feeling that lawmakers from the north don't want to back the president, and that, you know, governors from the north have previously raised an observation through the governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, against this during NEC, which was coincidentally presided by Vice President Kashim Shettima before Tinubu had his way. Look, let's look at this thing holistically. If there are problems, let's solve these problems without trying to make it look partisan. And the opposition politicians too should support the government in ensuring that taxation is one that, you know, is properly put in place. Okay. Because if not, if you do win election, I don't have enough revenues, how will you be able to run? So it's not about the Tinubu presidency, it's about what is good for the Nigerian people.
In all of this, what's been the reaction of the government? Because we've not heard anything. In all of this, as the government also come out to say, this is the documents we have. This is our gazetted document, and also this was the harmonized one by the National Assembly. Where is the Ministry of Information? By this, you know, when you have a matter of national dispute, Dr. Bati, the Ministry of Information, that gazetted document,
is to publish.
Yeah, to publish. Can as well publish
the government printer.
Government printer can as well publish the gazetted copy and the harmonized copy, because they have both of them. Yeah. So why have they not published all those copies till now, as we speak? Let's push it back to the government.
Those documents can actually be very bulky. These are legislative documents. They could actually be very bulky and all of that, but the onus is on the government to actually do that, to come to the table. But I mean, I had Dr. Tokwe Fasua on my program on Saturday where we talked about some of these issues, and he told me that he was being careful to get into that. Now, Tokwe Fasua is the special advisor on economic affairs to the president, and he's saying that since the House of Reps, where the allegation was raised, has already raised up a committee, that the executive is waiting for the outcome of the report of that committee before it will comment on it. But I think you've raised an important point there. Yes. The Minister of Information, through the Minister of Information, which is the official government printer of gazetted copies of laws in Nigeria, should go ahead and simply just display.
Absolutely.
But if they say they are waiting for the National Assembly to do that,
you can get it from the government
printer. We'll just wait to see how it plays out.
All right.
You can get it from the Mint. They have offices everywhere.
Serap has also made a call to the presidency.
The Honorable was saying it's been printed. If it's printed, it's public document.
To release
so the
certified true copy. So in a number of quarters, there's been a call for a release of the harmonized bill. Thank you so much, Somna, for joining us this morning. We'll see you again next week, Monday, for Political Brief.